After playing a little musical cars, we got the Subaru in the garage, so yeah, this is gonna be quite a bit of work. What's up, everybody? So, as you guys see, we got the Civic out, we got the Subaru in, and we're finally going to jump into Project Subaru. As you guys know, or maybe don't know, this car has been on the channel a few times, but it was under my brother's possession, and now it is mine. So, about a year ago, I ended up purchasing this car from him. We did a little trade of some shoes, plus a little bit of cash, and I'd say it's a pretty good deal, although this car is going to need a lot of work. So we're going to go ahead, give you guys a quick little rundown of everything that it's going to need, and a few of the parts that I've actually stockpiled for it, as well as trying to get this thing to run, because as you guys just saw, I had to push it in. It's got a flat tire, and it's currently full of parts. So first things first, let's get this cleaned up and then jump into the other issues. So like I said, first step here, let's get the car cleaned out. As you can see here, I've got parts everywhere. I've been using this just to store everything, and it is pretty much a mess. So we'll get this stuff out of here that we have room to actually work, because I'm pretty sure the reason why this car is not starting is fuel related, so we might have to dive into the fuel pump area. So with that being said, let's get this stuff cleaned out. Now that we got the Subaru all cleaned out, we have all the room in the interior now in case we do need to access the fuel pump. Because like I said, I think that might be the issue. I'm not entirely sure though, just because when I originally tried to bring the car in here, hooked the battery pack up to it and cranked it over, everything was seeming fine, but I didn't hear the fuel pump engage and the car itself didn't want to start. I know it's got gas in it. I put 5 gallons of gas in there, so it should be good. But I guess we'll see. So first things first, let's throw this thing on the charger, get the battery going. Got my charger there, so we'll go ahead and hook that up, get the battery up to voltage, and then we'll try to crank it over and see what happens. So now we got the battery charged up. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this thing to crank over and start. I don't know if you can hear that, but I can hear the fuel pump relay. I believe it's over there on the floor. So listen here. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but there's a clicking coming from over there. I just don't hear the hum from the fuel pump itself. Yeah, I'm not hearing anything. My gas gauge also shows that it's well below empty, but I know it's full, or it's got 5 gallons in it because I just put 5 gallons in it before we put it in here. So let's go ahead and try to crank this thing over and see what happens. Yeah, we got nothing. Let's see if we spray a little starting fluid in there, what'll happen. Alright, got a little starting fluid here. Let's go ahead and see if this does anything. Well, it wanted to do something there. I may need somebody to come down and help me out here to spray this in there while I try to start it, but it did sound like it wanted to crank over. So it did something. That's why I'm thinking it might be fuel related. Let's go ahead and take off one of these lines. I don't remember which one's inlet and return. So let's see if we're getting fuel to the rail here. Because if we're not getting anything there, then we know it's pump related. Okay, so let's go and see if we're getting any fuel to the engine itself. First off, we'll go and check the lines here, so we're getting anything to it. The top one, from my understanding here, that runs into the middle is the return. So that's going back to the fuel tank. Then you have this middle blue one here. I believe that's evap. You see there, it runs there, goes to the bottom. And then this very, very top one that goes into the filter and then goes to the bottom hose there, that should be our inlet. So we'll go ahead, pop this top one off, see if we get any fuel that's coming through here, or if we're getting any here. If our filter's clogged, it may not be getting anything. If it's coming here, then we know we're getting fuel. So I guess let's go ahead and pop these off and see if we're getting any fuel pressure. Okay, let's see if it does anything. Okay, so we got no fuel coming in here. So now we'll go before the filter here and see if we're getting anything into the filter, because maybe the filter's clogged, who knows? And we got nothing. So, further back we go. So now that we've gone through, we've done our little test here on the engine side. We'll go ahead and move to the back, test out the fuel pump, see if that's the problem. Like you guys just saw, with starting fluid, the engine does start, so we are getting air, we're getting spark, we're getting all that good stuff. We're just not getting any fuel, which you guys just saw. We popped off the main line to the engine, no fuel there. We tested before the filter to see if the filter was plugged, and still no fuel there. As far as interior goes, like I said, I believe that fuel pump relay is over there on the passenger side floorboard, and I do hear it clicking on. I just don't hear the humming of the fuel pump itself. So with that being said, I believe the fuel pump is underneath the rear seats here. So we'll go ahead, pull the rear seats up, get the fuel pump out, give it a look over, and determine if that's our issue. Probably end up having to replace it. That's kind of what it's looking like. So let's jump into that next. So after a quick little look online here, looks like our fuel pump is actually right behind the seats. So we don't have to pull any seats up or nothing. It's just right there. There's 4 little screws. We'll get those out of the way and we'll have access to our pump and our float and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead, remove this cargo stuff out of the way and pull the pump out. So fuel pump is out. And then we can go ahead and check this thing, look it over. Looks pretty crusty if you ask me. As you guys can see there, there's plenty of fuel in the tank. Tank looks a little rusty, but overall it shouldn't be too terrible. So let's go and test out that pump. So I went ahead and tested out those two there. It was these two on the end here, so that's your power and your ground. And as you can see there, we had power with the test light there. So now I went ahead, set the pump up over here. Kind of got it set up for pretty much a bench test, as you're gonna call that. So I've got my power and ground hooked up here. So technically the pump should run, which as you guys have seen, the test light works. We are getting power to it, so obviously the pump isn't working. So if I go ahead, touch these two here, and nothing. Even if I reverse it, still nothing. So yes, this pump is dead. Now we've gone through and determined exactly what the issue is with the car, we know that we're going to need to get a new fuel pump here. So with that being said, we'll go ahead, get that ordered in, and then here in the next video or so, we'll get it replaced and get the car running. Ideally, I want to go through and just replace this entire assembly, because you guys can see here, it looks pretty gross, pretty nasty, and it's all rusty. So rather than putting this back in the car, let's go ahead and replace the entire thing. And maybe you guys can help me out. Throw down in the comments below what would be a good fuel pump to run it in these Subarus. I'm kind of new to the whole Subaru thing, so a replacement, like kind of a future-proofing fuel pump for this vehicle as far as like a performance one goes, just because eventually I'm not going to keep with this 2.2 liter. I want to go through and do like a STI swap or just a WRX swap, one of the two, like an EJ205 or 207. Obviously, I'm new to the whole thing, so it's going to be a whole learning curve. So if you guys have any suggestions, throw it down in the comments below. And with that being said about the engine and stuff, let's kind of go over what my initial plans are for the car. So as far as the plan is with the Subaru is we're going to go ahead and try to fix it up as much as possible. Now, when I say that, I just want to go through and do kind of things in certain little phases. So for phase one, we'll go through and get this thing kind of running and reliable. I say that loosely, but with this motor having like 200 some odd thousand miles on it and the automatic transmission, it's nothing too spectacular, but I want to get to a point where it is reliable. So like you guys have seen, currently we've diagnosed that the fuel pump is the issue. So we'll get that taken care of, get this thing running, and then once that is completed, we can go into the engine itself. I want to go through and do it like a timing on it and stuff, just because I know that's going to need to be done. I don't know when it's been done, but I know it needs to be done. We need to go through and address the oil leak on this car. It's got a pretty bad oil leak. I'm not sure where it's coming from, whether it be the valve cover gaskets or front main seal, rear main seal, whatever it may be. We'll dive into that and see if we can fix that. And then once that stuff is completed, that'll pretty much end our phase 1 there. We got to do a little bit of cleanup and stuff. I want to pressure wash the engine bay, clean out the interior, just make it overall nicer, cleaner condition for when we do start getting into our upgrades and modifications. Now, as far as phase 2 go, you guys may have seen some of the pieces that I've had laying in the garage, laying around in the background. One of those being the manual transmission. I've had that sitting there for quite some time now, and eventually we'll be swapping this car to manual. So getting rid of the automatic and putting that in there, I think will make it be much more enjoyable and much more fun just for the time being. Like I said, that's kind of just an initial phase 2. Then once that's done, we get into the interior. We'll go ahead and swap in all these pieces. Like you guys saw quite a few pieces come out of the car that I have been like kind of stockpiling in here. So the interior will be getting a full refresh. I got some other plans for it. I mean, you guys kind of saw some of the interior pieces, but I've got more plans for it. So you guys have to wait and stay tuned for what I have planned for that. But once that is all complete, then we can kind of get comfortable with the car, kind of do a few little suspension upgrades and stuff here and there. But I want to go through eventually and find either a WRX or STI chassis to swap everything into this car. I ideally want to have a full RSTI build with the EJ205, 207, 257, whatever engine I choose to go with. Maybe you guys can help me decide on what you guys think would be best in this car. But yeah, that is kind of the main goal with this car, is to do a full RSTI style build with it, but just as a wagon. And then finally, because this body is not in great shape, this would be one of the cars that I definitely want to go through and do a wide body kit on it. I think a wide body wagon would be sick, especially like the 22B style. But yeah, you guys can let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think about that? But otherwise, those are kind of the initial plans for now. Obviously, it may change from time to time, and we may take the steps a little bit differently than what I mentioned. So with that being said, hopefully you guys are excited for this build. I know I am. We've been sitting on it for quite a while, collecting parts. So this will be kind of nice to actually jump into this and learn something new. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you guys did, make sure big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned for more, because we got plenty of stuff coming, and I will see you guys in the next one.